My name is Mark Elliott. I'm the head of international residential here in Savills, and we work predominantly with best-in-class developers all over the world. So whether that be in London, the US, Japan, Thailand, wherever it may be, we're always looking to bring best-in-class product to our database here in Hong Kong. So, you know, we've been on the lookout for quite some time to work with somebody in Niseko specifically because of the obvious weak Japanese yen, but also because of it being a really prime location for not just Asians, but for everyone throughout the world to now come and enjoy what is, you know, foremost ski resort in the world. So without further ado, I want to just run through what we're going to talk about in general tonight, and then we've got a couple of guests who are going to talk in a bit more detail about the micro. So I'm going to cover Niseko and what's going on in Niseko and give you a brief market update. We're also going to talk about some factors to consider when investing in Niseko, whether you're looking for money-making investments or whether you're looking for a lifestyle opportunity and somewhere to call your home. Then we're going to talk more about Hannah Creek, which is why we're here tonight, and which in Savills' opinion is one of the best opportunities, if not the best opportunity, to come in Niseko in probably the last decade, since we as a business have been covering it from our Japan office, but also from the rest of Asia Pac. So with that said, obviously most people are going to know, especially most people in this room, you've either visited Niseko or you're interested in Niseko, so you're well aware of this. But for those that aren't, all of the cities that you see on this map, it's a direct flight, except from Singapore, where you fly in from Tokyo. But it's accessible from everywhere. And as you'll see on slides in the future, it's used by everyone. So it's not just Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, and Singaporeans that go to Hokkaido or to Niseko. It's people from all over the world. But predominantly, it's the cities that you see on this map that are fueling the growth in the town. So the reason why Savills think it's a good bet, the reason why we're so excited about it is the currency play at the moment. You know, there's a lot of money printing going on in the world. There's perhaps risk of inflation being stagnant and persisting, and we believe it will, which means that there's importance on looking at prime assets and looking at assets that are perhaps undersupplied and in over demand. This is historically a very good way to hedge against inflation. And if you have relentless money printing by central banks, then you're obviously going to get asset price increases, but specifically, you're going to get aggressive appreciation in locations that are either undersupplied or that are in a huge demand. And Niseko really fits in there, perhaps more than even Tokyo and Osaka, because of the supply and demand constraints that they have, much like some other cities in the world. So, you know, the yen, JPY is a really important play here, but also when coupled with the supply and the demand issue, that's why Savills are excited about, you know, what we're doing at the moment. Visitors to Niseko, and I wanted to show this slide despite it being in Japanese. Perhaps there's some people in the room that can read it. I can't, unfortunately, but I can tell you about the chart. And what I can tell you is that whilst everybody assimilates or associates Niseko with sort of November, December, January, and that's it, it's quite the opposite. And I'll touch on that in a few more slides, but I just wanted to show the numbers first rather than just the sales guy telling you. You know, this is the summer and this is the winter. There's not actually a huge difference between the peak time of the summer and the winter. Niseko tourism and Japan tourism have made a sterling effort to promote that, but also to make sure that when people do come in the summertime, that there are things to do. We can touch on that. So it's becoming as popular in June, July, August as it is in November, December, January. Great news from an investment perspective, but also great news if you're buying to live. It's not a ghost town like the rest of the summertime. So similar to places like Courchevel and Chamonix in Europe that have extreme sports and hiking and mountain biking and golf. Niseko has all of those and more, as well as it being, you know, a wonderful ski resort. So I think that's a really important slide. Equally as important is this slide. You know, Australia and America take up a huge percentage of the visitors that stay for more than a day. Right? This doesn't include Japanese people. You know, Japan is an insular country, for rightly or wrongly. You know, it's a great thing, I think. But there's a lot of domestic travel. You know, much like there is in China these days. There's a lot of people in Japan that travel to Hokkaido year in, year out, sometimes multiple times a year. But in addition to those people, there's tens of thousands of Australians, tens of thousands of Cantonese, Hong Kong people, tens of thousands of Americans, tens of thousands of Singaporeans, Singaporeans, and a fair few Taiwanese, Malaysians, Thai, Korean, etc. So it really is, a melting pot when it comes to tourism. But these tourists aren't just coming up from Tokyo for a day or two. They're staying for a week, or in some cases 2 weeks. So this is key. I'm from Europe, as you can all tell, but it's not the same in France. In Chamonix you have Russians, and that's about it. In the rest of the resorts in prime France and prime Italy, you get the odd Englishman, you get the odd Spaniard, but really you don't see many Asian faces. You don't see any Americans because they have Whistler and places like that. Whereas in Niseko, you see a huge amount. There are reasons for that, and I will talk to you about those reasons. But fundamentally, it's because of what it brings to the table that European resorts and North American resorts do not. So I touched on it earlier, but these are just some images to show that it is a stunning place whatever time of the year you go. But more importantly than that, and as well as obviously the fact that it's open all year round, whether it be onsens or the Michelin star restaurants in Hirafu or Alizano, there are also golf courses. There's also rafting and hiking and mountain biking, and obviously they are prevalent throughout the year. But it's known for being a ski resort. It's known for being, a very romantic, very beautiful place to be. And I think this image sums that up pretty well. This is Grand Hirafu with the ski resort behind it. But it's a foodie paradise, or it is quickly becoming a foodie paradise, right? There is an awful lot of wonderful, quaint, and cute little restaurants dotted around all of the villages. But there's also 3 Michelin star restaurants as well. So it isn't just, a ramen bar at the bottom of the slopes where you can stop off and get some soup and noodles. It's high-end dining. There is fine dining, at your doorstep, 10 minutes, 5 minutes from your villa or from your estate. And I think this is really important, for people like this to go through the expense and create the infrastructure to put a restaurant in place at this sort of level of fine dining. They obviously see something and have done enough due diligence to know that there's probably the right clientele there. When you have eateries like this, and when you have enough clientele to serve and make these type of people money, this is really good for both house prices, but it's also really good for rental return. Now, this is 10 years away. Well, 8 to 10 years away. But I don't know if anybody invested in prime central London or looked at places like Elements before the Airport Express arrived. Infrastructure changes are everything. They're below location, 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 as everybody says, but they're above almost everything else. I've been selling real estate for the last 20 years. And every time there is an infrastructure change near something of importance, and by that I mean, either a prime development or a development that rents very well. If you have an infrastructure change, such as new rail network, new bus terminal, or something along those lines, you see dramatic increases in capital appreciation and in rents. So everybody knows what the Shinkansen is. It's the bullet train, the platypus looking, turquoise trains that fly around Japan. Kuchan is going to be home to one of those stations within the next decade. Sooner than that, probably, but let's sandbag it and say 10 years, right? If you have the foresight to understand what that will do for domestic tourism and foreign tourism, right? Not everybody loves to fly. In fact, a lot of people don't. And a lot of people in the sort of boomer age category don't. And they're the ones that have the money to be spending 500,000, 1 million yen per night on rent. They perhaps avoid it because they don't want to fly up to Chitose Airport. Everybody thinks you fly into Sapporo. Actually, you don't. You fly into Chitose Airport. So you either take 16 or the 5 and the 2:30, depending on weather conditions and traffic. But in 8 to 10 years, you'll be able to travel there in 20 minutes rather than 2 hours. And that's a huge difference. And I tell you one thing, it won't be like the Crossrail in London, where everybody promised the world, and then when you actually get on it, it breaks, or it doesn't work, or it doesn't show up. I'm sorry about that, but that's England. So I've had to deal with it my whole life. But in Japan, it doesn't work that way. Things work on time, they're delivered on time, and when they're built, they work. Right? So I think you can take a lot of confidence in the fact that if you're investing now, or you're looking to live in something now, whether you're looking to rent it out or in turn sell it in the future, infrastructure changes like this are going to be absolutely crucial to your success as an investor or somebody who's looking to resell. So we think this is huge. So whilst it's not around the corner, you don't want it to be around the corner, because it is. If it is around the corner, the Tsubo price or the per square meter price doubles or triples. You know, you want to be in before that infrastructure rally. So just to give you an idea, Kuchan and Niseko are very, very close. You know? So whilst you're on a 20-minute bullet train to Kuchan, you're then a very, very short taxi ride, you know, something like a Hong Kong taxi, you know, 15, 20 minutes. It makes it incredibly accessible for the ultra rich or just the high net worth individual that either wants to visit or live there. And just to blow it up a little bit, the Niseko Hanazano Resort is the brand new resort or newest of the three. So you've got Adapori, you've got Grand Harafu, which I showed the image of before, and then you've got Hanazano, which is where the new lifts are, the new infrastructure is, the new Park Hyatt 5-star hotel is. That's where we are. And that's where we think we're going to see the most growth. And the reason why is because it's very, very close to Kuchan, but also it's modern and it's safer, and it's been built in the last 5 years, as opposed to the other two areas, which again, I'll touch on a little bit later, which are beautiful and wonderful to visit, but there's no land left. You know, it was bought by Aussies 20 years ago, and they built little shacks and little B&Bs and hostels and mansions, but it's a bit of a melting pot of different projects and different sized villas in a small location. So there's not enough land to build something where you can put heated walking footpaths and a heated road and a big residence facility. There's not enough room for that. So you have to look in the other two locations. Well, when you've got somebody like Richard Lee or Lai Sun, who's developing this project, involved in that sort of infrastructure changes, then you know that A, they're going to get built, and that they're going to get built to perfection, which means that people are going to gravitate towards this section of the ski lift just because of the usability and the user-friendly nature of having modern infrastructure. So Hanazano is modern, but Grand Harafu is really where you will know and is the famous part with being a high street going up the hill, just so you can get your bearings. But Kuchan is where the Shinkansen is going to land and drop off. Right, residential land prices. Well, bear in mind we've had COVID and we've had wars and we've had all of these other horrendous things going on in the world. But Hokkaido, over the last, so in 2022 and in 2023, as we came out of COVID and beyond, has seen 2 to 5 during COVID, and then above 5% growth, simply in land prices alone in the last year. If you look at the rest of the rest of Japan, including Tokyo and Osaka, it's not even comparable. So that effect of what's going on there in terms of the infrastructure changes, but more importantly, it's just the demand from China, the demand from Singapore, the demand from Hong Kong, America, Australia, means that it's far outperformed everywhere else in Japan in terms of land prices. Now we can share all of these slides with statistics with anyone, so you don't need to take photos, we'll share them with you. Average land prices in Hokkaido, you can see the trajectory it's on. Savills Tokyo predict will be at 100,000 yen per meter within the next 5 years. We're currently at about 65. Again, I'll share this with you. I know it's small, so people are looking very closely, but I'll share it with you. 38,000 in 2014, 2023, 65,000. 2030, 100,000. You know, nobody knows what's going to happen. But our Savills research team is pretty accurate. You know, we work with the government of Japan, we work with government in England. You know, we are salespeople, I certainly am, but Savills as a business is a bit more conservative and a bit more research orientated. So all of these figures are not coming from the sales guys, they're coming from the research guys. We do an awful lot of due diligence on what's happening and why these prices are going to go up. It is not just we think. The reason why is because the quality is coming, right? In the UK, and we've been selling a lot of UK and a lot of US, we have, you know, what's called the Waitrose effect, right? And it used to be the Starbucks effect, but that is no longer because they're everywhere. But the Waitrose effect is when you have a development or a location that builds a supermarket like, you know, City Super or one of the high-end supermarkets, you know, a development like that or a business like that is attracted to a high-end development. They're attracted to return on capital. Well, you know, that's Chong Kong family, the Ritz-Carlton you all know, obviously the Rosewood and New World you all know, and the Aman Resorts, 4 of the finest hotel brands in the world, all call Niseko their home. They're either in construction or they're built and already in existence and selling duplex apartments for $15 million US, and they're all sold, gone, and they're all rented. And you can go on booking.com and find out for yourself today and try and rent anything in here for December and January. You won't find anything. So that's the sort of money that's there, right? It's not the, you know, a holiday let. It's super high end luxurious holiday makers that want ski in, ski out, an absolute best in class quality. And if you can provide that for these tenants or these renters that are coming from China or coming from Australia or America, then you'll be, quids in, as they say, in terms of an investment opportunity. And I think if you follow this money, you'll do quite well, because they obviously do an awful lot of due diligence before they open a 600-room hotel. Okay, factors to consider when investing in Niseko. I mean, location, obviously, that goes without saying. You're all here because you know Niseko. So we won't touch on them. Trust and expertise and track record of a developer is really important, especially if you're Cantonese and you're buying in Japan, where everything is in Japanese. You need to know that the people who are designing it and the people who are building it know what they're doing, have done it before, and will deliver what they say they're going to deliver. Right? So that is the most important. There are many advertisements in Hong Kong that I see with a local agency, I mean, no disrespect to them whatsoever, selling something from a local developer in Japan that's Australian, that is building his first apartment there and then selling it to Hong Kong people. And, I would be very careful doing something like this. I think you either buy with a branded residence who has a multinational name, or you buy with somebody who's done it before and been through the procedures, because they are very stringent. Planning permission is not like it is in Thailand, where you can build anything you want. You have to build within certain parameters. You have to adhere to many, many rules. And if you haven't done it before, it's very easy to go bankrupt, stop building, and therefore deposits are lost. So track record and trusted expertise is vital. So buying through somebody like Savills and developers that we're selling really does make sense. Management and maintenance is obviously also important too. If you're not planning on living there full time, having clubhouses and security, not that the security is essential, but for someone to maintain the property, that is of course essential when you have extreme weathers like a very hot summer and a very cold winter. So I just wanted to touch on this before we move into the project itself. So it's just to give you an idea. This is predominantly where you would have stayed in the past before, and then out to Annapurna over here, and then up to Hanazana over there. So we touched on the park hire, some of the restaurants that I spoke about earlier, all in Hanazana. This is the new part, right? The new ski lifts, the new ski area, the new restaurants, the new hotels, all here. And simply because there's no room here. So there's nothing wrong with this, but you're not going to get the same infrastructure or facilities or size and landscape as you would do in Hanazana, that you would in Haraku. So I think that's the most important thing to point out here. It's not like an Element versus a Hong Kong Island. It's a completely different thing. But if you look at it, from a zoom out perspective, it is a lot like that, right? This sort of area has got a new train coming into it around the corner. It's new restaurants, it's new facilities, all the lifts are new. And this is much more like Midlands. It's very established. Everybody knows about it. But there's not much you can do to it. And that's the difference. So whilst you can't compare them, obviously, one is a ski resort and the other is a financial city, just to give you some sort of idea on what's happening in Hanazana and how exciting it is, but also how early it is. And that, I think, is why Richard Lee and Rosewood and why Park Hyatt see that and are investing there. Again, these are just some images of the new lift facilities in Hanazana. They make Grand Rafu and Annapurna look pretty old. But I think that this is important, that when you're going after that high-end client, the one that pays $500,000 yen a night in rent, and that wants the facilities and the chef and the butler, they don't want to ski out of their apartment or their house in the morning and have a broken lift and nothing working. Well, that's not going to be an issue at this resort, because it's all built and owned by the same people. And that is PCPL. So track record, Hana Ridge and Hanazana. So Apex Property, who are the developer that we're working with, have a pretty impressive track record. So we're going to show you what they've built before. And again, you don't have to take my word for this. You can go on any website or any portal, and I bet you can't get a room or even a night there this winter, and probably even the winter after. But what they've built is nothing short of spectacular. Everything that they deliver has a natural onsen from the ground up, not hot water that they pretend is an onsen, a natural onsen, and some of them will have two, so his or hers, or a his and hers and a guest. They've really gone to every length to make sure that they are delivering the absolute best in class. And they've done it before. And this is it. So Hana Ridge Hanazana is one of the mansions that they've completed, and it rents from anywhere between 500,000 yen to 1 million yen per night. 50,000 Hong Kong dollars, there or thereabouts, upwards, perhaps more, in peak season. But it also rents throughout the summer as well. So what we will also do is introduce you to an old client of ours, if you do have any questions, that is now part of the Apex team. So we're so impressed by what he had bought and he had invested in for owner occupation purposes that then joined the team. Now, this is what I spoke about earlier, about making sure that you're riding on the back or piggybacking of the best possible people, right? There are different levels of developers and there are different levels of products that are delivered to buyers. At this level, we are at the very top and the best in class, and that's why Savills made concerted effort to work with Apex because of what we'd seen when we visited Niseko ourselves. So it's the Tsubasa Chalet at Hannah Ridge is what I was talking about. And as you can see, in off season, you can rent it for 400,000 yen per night. As we go into peak season, that will double. But it's more me just wanting to show you the track record. Now, what we're talking about today is Hannah Creek. This is essentially a residence facilities where you will have, a public onsen for the residents only. You will have pickleball courts, gymnasium, sauna, steam room, security, and all of the maintenance, just like you have in Hong Kong, a clubhouse, which people at this sort of level require. We will then have turnkey townhouses, right? So something that you would see in a Sun Hong Kai development, like a terraced house, 3 or 4 bedroom, but turnkey, ready to go, excellent for a rental property, but also available to live in. And then what we think is the most exciting is then turnkey houses. So the ability to purchase a plot of land with a house that is either developed for you or developed with you. So they're all going to get built regardless. 5 or 6 of them have already been sold in the last few weeks. They are gone. Those plots will never be available again. And over the next year and a half, between now and the construction completion, all of the rest will be sold. But what they've done, which I love, and which we love, is instead of just saying, okay, well, you buy the land and you go do it yourselves, which most high net worth individuals don't want to do. People want a turnkey solution to either their lifestyle or their investment. So we have 3 different options. You can build your own house and buy the land. We can build your house, and by we, I don't mean we. Savills won't do it for you, but we will manage the process. But your house can be built for you within your specifications, or you can buy one of the turnkey townhouses. So there are options to suit everybody's needs. But fundamentally, from an aerial point of view, with Mariette in the background, that is what we're going to look like, with a heated road connecting it, but also heated footpaths connecting all of the outside. So if you want to take an evening walk, it's attention to detail. It's not, I hate to keep going back to Aussies like I'm bashing them. I'm not. I like Australians. But the Aussie developer who builds one house in the middle of nowhere and next door you're a restaurant with, with the smells and the scents coming out, and outside is a frozen road. It is not that. This is a private estate with heated roads and heated walkways with a 24-hour security and residence club privately for the residents. So it really thinks of everything when we're talking about the upper level of travel. And this is just an idea of where it is. So you're next to Hanazano Golf, but also in between Kushan and 2 minutes to Hanazano Resort. So yes, from a ski out perspective, it's not, but it is a couple of minutes away, which, as people will know from Harafu and Apuri, the residents are all down here. So you can sometimes be 10 or 15 minutes away. To be in this site, we're very, very lucky. And any questions you have about this, again, we will send and share with you after in conversations. As I talked about, there are land plots available, there are onsen houses, and there are onsen townhouses. Everything that we're selling has a natural onsen connected underground to a natural pool of onsen water, so it will be within your apartment. There is also an onsen within the clubhouse facility for you and your guests to enjoy on a larger scale. But this is an idea of what the houses will look like and what the townhouses will look like. In the summer, obviously. In the winter, it will not look like that. Okay, just a typical example of a floor plan. I won't spend too much time on this, but I will just run through some of the details. You've obviously got ski rooms, storage rooms, heated garages, but also you've got huge master bedrooms, his and hers bathrooms. It's a very, very well thought out space, which again, as I said, includes natural onsens inside and could be 2 natural onsens, should that be your requirement. These are some CGIs of exactly what they'll look like. And again, if you have a particular preference to a different stone or a different color, then we can talk about that. You know, these are in the process of going through the construction stages. The architects are in-house, so we can talk with the architects. All of the partners are either with Apex or with Savills. We are here throughout the whole process. This is not just buy tonight, buy next week, and then you're on your own. Far from it. No, it's a turnkey investment from today or from whenever you decide to purchase to the day you decide to sell. We will manage the construction, we will manage completion, we will then manage the tenancy if you decide to rent it out, and we will make sure those tenants are happy. And then when you're ready to sell, Savills will sell it to you. So really, you never have to go if you don't want to, but why would you not want to? Okay, the clubhouse, as I touched on, you know, I don't need to read through it again, but there's a kids club, which is music to my ears with 3 children under 5, so I can just leave them there all day. And then there is pickleball courts, garden, spa, yoga studio, and there will be a restaurant. So pretty cool. And here we are. So just to give you an aerial view, townhouses all sold, but 2 more blocks of townhouses across from these. And pickleball courts will be on the roof, probably only available in the summertime, unless you're crazy. And then obviously on the outside, we've got all of the land plots. So these land plots are really at the disposal of the buyer. I'm talking to someone specifically from a family office in China that is looking at potentially combining 2 of them and building one larger house, or perhaps a house for them and a house for guests. There are options. With the middle that you see in the inside of the heated row, there aren't, you know, the options are the townhouse or the turnkey house. But again, they are spectacular. They are built by the same people that have built Hannah Ridge, which is, again, renting for $500,000 yen a night in off-season. These guys know what they're doing. You know, it's a Sun Hankai or a Swire type product, but in a much more desirable location. So, you know, if you want to do your own, then you can. If you want it done for you, then you can. And if you want something that's simply lock up and leave, then you can. Okay, so what I wanted to do is introduce Sylvia. Sylvia runs Apex Property, and with her partner, who is part of the Lai Sun family from the Hong Kong developer, which I'm sure most of you know. So in terms of credibility and funding and expertise, there really isn't anyone better, which is why Savills are very honoured to be working with you. So if you have any questions for Sylvia afterwards, please do. But I'd also like to give Sylvia just an opportunity to introduce a bit more about her company and why she's as excited as we are. So over to you for a quick second.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. So we started Apex in 2011 and co-founded by myself and Vicky Lam, who is part of the Lai Sun family. So why did we start this company? Why Niseko? Well, we both fell in love with Niseko. We saw it was, I think, 2010 that we visited, and because we're both, you know, property background, Vicky is a trained architect, myself, a real estate agent. In the past, we saw the opportunity and fell in love and said, that's it, let's start Apex. So we were looking for properties with the best location, as Mark said, that's what you do, you look for locations. So our first project was the Loft in Middle Harafu. Which is on a bluff, protective views of Yote. From the success of that, selling all of that, then we heard PCBD was pulling a trigger to start developing in Hanazono, and because of that news, we decided Hanazono. Hanazono is the area where we want to invest and develop next. So in 2017, we acquired a property in what we call Hannah Ridge. And we were the first to actually develop a onsen land subdivision. And within 2 years of acquiring that, we sold everything. We sold all the onsen plot. And on the back of that success, we realized, okay, well, there is this huge demand of Hanazono and everyone wants onsen land. So then we looked, and then we came across with Hannah Creek. So the selling point about the most, best thing about buying in Hanazono is that not only just the onsen connection, which is very important, is Harafu, they've actually stopped permitting onsen drilling. So Hanazono, not yet. And of course, the other location reasons, being close to Kuching. So I think that's very important. Buying a piece of land with your onsen is like buying a piece of land with a gold mine. So that's key. Another key thing about Hannah Creek is the forest, the undulating landscape. It's not a flat piece of land like most other housing estates that you've probably come across in Marafu and other areas in Niseko. What's so unique about, Hannah Creek is you've got the natural waterways, the pine trees, and all of us, we all live in Hong Kong, we live in jungle city, so we want to escape. We want to be amongst nature in our private onsen. So that's how, why we decided to have, Hannah Creek, and we launched the project beginning of this year, and we sold 6. So the other benefit is, of course, the clubhouse. No other housing estate in Niseko has a clubhouse facility with all those offerings. So that pretty much sums up, the key benefits, of Hannah Creek and why we started Hannah Creek. Due to those.
I think it's also important to point out that unless you're buying within a hotel branded residence, there won't be that opportunity again. The reach that these guys have at Apex with the Lysan connection and the funding that they have, the ability to create something on this scale with this infrastructure, it's not going to happen again, unless it's by Richard Lee, BCPD, or the Rosewood, and you change New World. They've already done it, so they're not going to do it again. Right? And they're already sold and they're already renting. The opportunities for something of this sort of scale and size with this infrastructure attached to it, 1 minute from the ski lift, it's not going to come again, which is why without any advertising or any marketing, they sold 6 and then came to Savills to sell the rest. So we're fairly confident that we'll sell it all before completion, whether it's here in Hong Kong and China or in Japan domestically, where we're also going to be listing it. But I think it's important to point out the onsen, but it's also important to point out the clubhouse facilities. And I think for people in Hong Kong, I've been here 15 years, we're very spoiled. It's in every development. It isn't in Japan. It certainly isn't in England, but it really isn't in Japan as well. So if you're overseas, to have something that is literally lock up and leave, and you don't have to worry about the maintenance, the snow blowing, the ice, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's all taken care of by the clubhouse. So yeah, without me going on too much, we can talk about this in much more detail afterwards. Sylvia and I will be here, as will Adrian, and Adrian was one of the buyers actually from Apex and now is part of the team. So I think it's probably much more useful to talk to him than me, but I would also welcome a conversation with any of you. So thank you for your time and patience. I really appreciate it.